Welcome to Breakup Cheater, where real voices tell stories that stay with you long after the screen goes dark. From heartbreak and betrayal to the moments that change everything. These aren't just stories. They're warnings, lessons, and sometimes confessions. Settle in. You're about to hear the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Sometimes the past doesn't just knock on your door. It sends you an invitation. Imagine opening your mailbox and finding out your ex, the one you once promised forever, is getting married, and they want you there. Most people would toss it in the trash. But I didn't. I packed a bag, booked a flight, and walked straight into a wedding I had no idea would change the way I saw our story forever. This is what happened when I showed up. My name is Ethan Ward, and a few months ago, I received an invitation I never expected to see. It was addressed in looping, familiar handwriting. Inside was a thick cream card. You are invited to the wedding of Clara Bennett and Thomas Reed. Clara was my ex-wife. It felt like the start of a bad joke, the kind where everyone can see the punchline but you. My first instinct was to drop the envelope in the bin. But instead I set it on the kitchen counter, stared at it for a week, and eventually decided to go. I told myself it would be fine. I told myself it would be closure. But that's not where this story begins. Before we were us. Clara and I had known each other for nearly a decade before we ever crossed the friendship line. We met in our sophomore year of college, introduced by mutual friends at a late-night diner. She was a communications major with a notebook full of non-profit campaign ideas. I was studying computer science, dreaming of becoming a software engineer. From day one we clicked, not in the lightning bolt love-at-first-sight way, but like two puzzle pieces that had been sitting in the same box for years without realizing they fit together. We stayed firmly in the friend category. She had her relationships, most notably with a mellow guitarist named Ryan. I had mine, a fiercely ambitious law student named Marissa. We'd double date, share study sessions, even crash at each other's apartments after movie nights. Clara once told someone we were basically siblings, and I didn't disagree. Life as it tends to shifted. Marissa and I broke up after 3 intense years when she decided she was ready for marriage, and I wasn't. Clara and Ryan ended things shortly after when he moved to Nashville for a job, and neither wanted to try long distance. Suddenly, both of us were adrift. No significant other, too much free time, and a gaping hole where those familiar goodnight texts used to be. A shift. Our hangouts became more frequent. Saturday morning coffee runs. Weeknight movies. Walks through the city when neither of us felt like going home. We were open in ways we hadn't been before. Talking about heartbreak, about what we'd learned, about the kind of people we wanted to be. I can't tell you the exact moment friendship tilted toward something else. Maybe it was always there, hiding under years of platonic routines. One November night we were sprawled on her couch, heckling a corny rom-com. She fell asleep with her head on my shoulder. I didn't move for 2 hours, afraid to ruin the quiet warmth of it. In that stillness I realized, this feels right. The next morning over pancakes we admitted it, the feelings, the hesitation, the risk to our friendship. We'd seen it go wrong for others. We promised to tread carefully to protect what we had. From friends to forever, or so we thought. Surprisingly, the transition was seamless. There were no awkward first date jitters. We already knew each other's quirks, habits, and the ugly truths you usually hide early on. After 4 months of dating, we moved in together. 8 months in, I proposed. It was fast, yes, but when you've known someone for years, it doesn't feel fast. The wedding was small. Our friends teased us for taking the scenic route to romance. Everyone seemed certain we were a sure thing. And for the first year they were right. We adopted a golden retriever named Max, rented a cozy house, and started talking vaguely about kids, someday. The drift. The second year changed things. Conversations became shorter, silences heavier. We were still friends, but the spark dimmed. I think we skipped a step. We never truly learned how to be lovers instead of just best friends sharing a lease. By year 3 we were talking in circles. Counseling improved communication but not connection. One March evening we sat in our living room and admitted it. We worked better as friends. We divorced quietly, fairly, without lawyers or drama. 6 months later, she moved to another state for a new job. We kept in touch. Birthdays, occasional check-ins, but life moved on. The invitation. 3 years later, her wedding invitation arrived. She'd included a handwritten note. "I'd love for you to come if you're comfortable. Thomas knows about our history and is fine with it." I wrestled with it for weeks. Was I asking for trouble? Or would skipping it feel like ignoring a milestone in someone who had been a massive part of my life? I went. The wedding. The ceremony was outdoors, intimate, and beautiful. Clara looked radiant, in a way I hadn't seen since our early days. Thomas seemed steady, kind, and absolutely devoted to her. At the reception, I mingled with old friends and some of her relatives. About an hour in, near the bar, I overheard 3 guys from our college circle. Not close friends, just acquaintances. "Ethan probably dodged a bullet," one said. "She's hard to live with," another laughed. The third, drunk and blunt, muttered, "He must have really screwed up to lose her." Froze. Faces turned toward me. Whispers. That sinking heat in my chest. I debated slipping out quietly. Then Clara appeared. Someone had told her. She walked straight to them, voice carrying over the room. She defended me. Not just politely, she dismantled their comments. She said I was one of the finest men she'd ever known. That our marriage hadn't failed because of personal flaws, but because we'd rushed something that needed time. She talked about my patience, my support for her dreams, the ways I'd helped her become who she was. The room went silent. Thomas came over, wrapped an arm around her, and led her away. The energy of the whole night shifted. The morning after. The next morning she texted, "Coffee before your flight?" We met at a small cafe downtown. She apologized for putting me on the spot. I told her she didn't need to. It was one of the kindest things anyone had ever done for me. She admitted her speech was partly for herself. That she'd carried guilt. Not about the divorce itself, but about how quickly we'd married, about fearing the loss of our friendship, about not voicing her needs. For 3 hours, we talked openly about things we'd never said during our marriage. She confessed feeling like we were business partners, not lovers. I admitted I'd sometimes been more in husband mode than truly connecting with her. At one point she said, "We loved each other as friends and thought that was enough for marriage." It wasn't. When I asked if she regretted it, she said no. Not the experience. That it had shaped her, taught her, and hopefully made me a better partner for someone else. Before we left, she said something that has stayed with me. Maybe the success of our relationship isn't that we stayed married, but that we cared enough to let go when we needed to. We hugged in the parking lot. This time it felt final. Not in a bitter way, but in a way that closed the last open chapter. I'm 35. I date more slowly now. I've learned friendship and romance aren't interchangeable. Looking back, I think about Clara's courage that night. She could have ignored the whispers, but she didn't. She chose to protect the dignity of someone she no longer loved romantically, because some bonds deserve to be honored, even when the relationship changes shape. And that, I think, is a rare kind of love. Some people think the end of a marriage means you stop caring. But that night, watching Clara stand up for me in front of her new husband and a room full of strangers, I realized, love doesn't always end. It just changes shape. Sometimes it's not about holding on. It's about letting go with grace. And maybe, the real success of a relationship isn't the wedding that starts it, but the respect that survives after it ends. You've just heard another story under the breakup cheater. If it kept you listening, share it. Someone out there might need to hear it too. And remember, in every ending there's a lesson. Until next time, keep your eyes open, your heart guarded, and your story ready to be told.